Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about how we can increase your long runs and how we can do that safely. So obviously if you're working towards a marathon, a half marathon, or even if you've been working at 5k in the past and you're starting to build yourself up to 10k races, maybe 10-mile races, a long run is going to be a really important aspect of your training plan. So a long run is typically, obviously, a longer run than what you'd be running during the week. And the most important aspect, and probably say the first tip I really recommend for this, is just to slow things down. So a lot of people, especially those who are coming from the 5k races or the shorter races, maybe new runners who are starting to think about doing more longer runs in their plan, you really have to get out of the habit of just hitting that kind of grey area or hitting that hard zone every time you step out the door. Especially with a long run, it's really important to just keep it conversational. So just a pace, perhaps you can make sure you've got a friend with you and you're just running at a conversational pace, a pace that you can talk to each other on. Obviously then you're making sure that your heart rate is low, your breathing rate is low, and then you're really making sure that you're staying within that aerobic zone. The main premise, the main goal of that long run is to increase your endurance, your stamina, and just develop that time on feet. That's all going to go a long way in developing the mitochondria, all the energy systems involved in keeping yourself aerobic and building up that general cardiovascular system to make sure that you're really getting the most out of yourself when you come to obviously developing your fitness and working towards race day. It took me a long time myself to really work at this and really slow things down, but for sure it was definitely the biggest thing that I ever did for my running, and it was the easiest thing I ever did physically, is just slow things down. It can be difficult, it really can be tough, especially mentally, when obviously so many of us are in that kind of Steve Prefontaine mindset, especially if you're coming from the faster stuff of just hitting it hard every single run, go, give it everything you've got. And at the end of the day, if you're trying to really develop that aerobic capacity and that aerobic ability, especially with the endurance and stamina side of things for working towards marathons, or even if perhaps you're watching this and you're working towards ultra marathons, you really need to just be slowing things down and really reap the benefits of that. So moving forward with this, obviously you want to be adding those miles gradually to your long runs. So perhaps right now your long run might be 10 kilometers. That's cool, it might be 6 miles, that's awesome. It's really important to remember that we're all on a different journey with our running and we're all on different levels with that. Don't feel like you have to just suddenly go out the door and hit 10 milers every weekend, 16Ks or 20Ks or anything like that. It's all about building up gradually, because if you're going to build things too quickly, you're just going to end up injuring yourself, you're going to end up burning yourself out and overworking the systems. So it's really important to make sure you sit down, plan out your runs, maybe get yourself a training plan, and obviously then you are really making sure that you're increasing those long runs slowly and gradually to really reap the benefits and not put too much strain on the muscles, the bones, or really put yourself at risk of injury. There's obviously the general rules that people throw around, and 10% rule is something that I always think about, so never increase it more than 10%. But obviously just be smart about this, so just be mindful, think about your body, and perhaps if you've planned yourself a long run and you've maybe pushed things a little bit too far and you're out on that run and things are starting to feel very uncomfortable, maybe you start to have a few aches and pains, then there's nothing wrong with cutting off those runs short. It's better to work in line with yourself, listen to your body, make sure that you aren't just going too hard, too fast. Make sure you're slowing it down, as we said at the start, but obviously that distance over time is going to start working your body in different ways that you're not used to. So if you need to cut the run short, just do it, guys. Don't be Strava proud, forget your ego, just do what's safe and listen to your body and stay in tune with that, because that's the most important aspect, I think, of this whole journey with running. Going into the third point now, I'd recommend just choosing one day per week that you can really dedicate to your long run. So obviously if you're a more experienced runner, you might be doing 2 or maybe even 3 if you're an ultra marathoner and you're starting to do some kind of a really high mileage weeks. You might have 2 or 3 long days, but really if you're at the start of this journey, and if you're working up to your first marathon, or if you are purely a marathon runner, usually 1 long run a week is long enough. Obviously your long run will get longer and longer and get bigger, so your idea of what is a long run will change over time, but really choose 1 day per week that really works well for you and that you have the time to really focus and not rush that run. You really need to give yourself the time to prepare for the run and make sure that you've got the time afterwards to allow some sort of recovery, make sure you are refueling well after the run. So make sure that you have the time there to do your long run on whatever day it is that you choose, and make sure you write it down so that you're accountable for it and you're not just going to cut it short, or you're not going to just make the excuses halfway through the run. A long run is an easier pace, but it's got its own challenges in there. You know, there will be points in that run when perhaps things might start entering your mind, maybe I should cut this short, because your body really always wants the easiest way out. So make sure that you give yourself the time so that you've got no excuses and you can get the distance done. Okay, so that brings into the next point. Like I said, you need to have the time aside for this, and one of the most important reasons for that is fueling. You need to make sure that after your run you're really getting in the energy that you've spent. Make sure you have the time there to have good nutrition, good meal after your run, to make sure you're refueling your body. Otherwise that's just going to drain you for, you know, the next few days. It's really important to give your body the best nutrition you can after a long run like this. So what I'd always recommend is heading for some sort of hydrating fruits just to get the energy in there and get some water in at the same time. Make sure you are drinking your water. Like I said, that's straight away, that should always be your most important part. Obviously these are things you need to think about on the run as well, but afterwards make sure you're getting in lots of fresh fruit to start with, and then make sure you follow that up with a carbohydrate rich meal later on. On the run though, of course, this is something that is essential. Fueling on the longer run is important. You know, if your longest run at the moment is maybe only 45 minutes, yeah, sure, you know, you can deal with that without water. You're not going to need to take any gels or anything like that with you on a long run like this, or any dates or anything. You should be more than happy to run for 45 minutes without anything. If you're on a marathon journey and you're starting to maybe work your way up to 20-mile runs, 30k runs in preparation for your marathon, these are the types of runs where you really need to start thinking about fueling. It's really essential. Making sure you've got some water, maybe making sure that you have maybe either a couple dates, some dried fruit in your back pocket, just something to keep your energy in there. And if you are preparing for a marathon, this is a perfect time to practice your fueling strategy for a marathon. So if you've built yourself up to a long run, heading towards maybe a marathon, these are the types of runs where you really start thinking about training your stomach, which is another important topic which perhaps should be a video in itself. But training your stomach to be able to eat whilst you're on the run and to stomach those foods and not end up with stitches or inconveniences like that. So make sure you're really paying attention to your fueling, and that is obviously your post run, within the run, and then of course before the run. So the night before the run is another important topic, and that's the next one I'm going to talk about now. So the night before your run, if you're going to be doing a long run, most people will probably aim to get out the door first thing in the morning. When you get yourself running sooner rather than later, it can be easier for a lot of people psychologically to kind of cover that distance. You know, if you can get yourself out the door before your brain really knows what's going on, then you are obviously into that long run, you're already committed, and after a mile, after a few kilometers, you're already in the zone and you're enjoying the process. So make sure the night before you run, you get your gear laid out. So this is typical for any kind of long distance runner. You'll have your shoes by the door, your socks, your shorts, whatever it is that you need on that run. Make sure you have it all lined up. You're getting ready just to get out the door as quick as you can, as efficiently as you can in the morning. It's all there, it's all ready to go. And again, it's just getting rid of those excuses to perhaps that might eat into that time that you've put aside for this long run. There's no excuse. The night before is where you prepare all of that, and obviously make sure you have a good carbohydrate rich meal, make sure you have some good minerals, some good vegetables in there as well, making sure that everything is ready to go, because the worst thing you want to do is get up for that run and just be completely depleted and have a hard time out there. You want to be enjoying the experience to get the most out of it and really feel the benefits and the recovery afterwards. So the next idea I want to think about, guys, is perhaps proposing that when you're starting to build up your long run, you're starting to really go into unknown territory, is think about doing that long run on a looped course or maybe some sort of circuit. So that allows you obviously to build up the distance without being obviously kind of stuck into a long run and being at a point in the run where you might bonk, maybe your energy might be depleted, or maybe you've just gone a bit too far too soon. You obviously got no point of return perhaps. So make it easy for yourself. Just do a looped course. So maybe find a nice park nearby. Maybe it's a park that you run in every day, and maybe you'll be doing this anyway. But have a looped course. Maybe you can leave some bottles on the side so you don't have to carry your water. Maybe you can leave a bit of nutrition, a bit of fuel there. Makes it a lot easier psychologically, obviously. If you're in a park like this and it's all familiar territory, all you have to do is think about covering the distance, so doing your laps. And that might be another way to really improve things as well. Thinking about breaking it up into different portions. So rather than thinking about it from perhaps maybe a 20k long run or a 30k long run, you can think about breaking it up into maybe 4 different sections. And after each one of those sections, you can stop, you can have a quick drink of water, maybe you can have, you know, some dried fruit, maybe an energy gel, whatever it is you choose to fuel yourself, maybe just the banana, and then you get going again. It don't have to stress out on these kind of long runs about really keeping moving all the time. It's okay to slow down now and again, to give yourself a breather, you know, to get this water, because we are after that kind of time on legs and really building up that distance. Okay, so the last point I want to make, and probably one of the most important ones, is just be patient. So just be patient with yourself, be easy on yourself. You know, it's really difficult to really do that sometimes, and we're always our worst enemy when it comes to being patient, especially when you want to improve yourself as a runner and you really want to move yourself forward, especially now as well that everyone's training is so open. People are using things like Strava. Just be patient, enjoy seeing what other people are doing, but really think about where you are on your running journey and think about your overall scheme of things, your overall goal, your plan. Maybe discuss this with your coach, you know, where you're going to be in 6 months, where you're going to be in a year, what can I achieve? Because if you set yourself off, you know, on a good route and you really plan it out well with the small increments of increasing the mileage every single time and really kind of piecing things together slowly, then if you stay healthy and you stay fit and injury free, which is obviously the most important part, you're always going to be developing, you're always going to be moving forward. Giving yourself rest now and again is really important as well. So don't just try and increase it every single week, maybe every 3 or 4 weeks, maybe just tone that distance down, have an easier long run, maybe make it a bit shorter, just to give your body some time to absorb the training. So patience, guys, is probably the most important tip out of all of this. Just take your time, enjoy the process, seek out new running routes, maybe seek out new running friends who want to go for these longer runs with you, and just have fun. Okay, so if these tips are helping you, give me a thumbs up. Write a comment down below if you have any video ideas, or maybe it's a specific topic you want me to cover in the future. If you're after coaching or any training plans, email me at harryrunsuk@gmail.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and yeah guys, get out there and enjoy your long runs and happy running.